I'm Bob Buchanan, EVP of Sales for RapidScale, and thank you all for joining the April version of our Cloud and Power webinar series. I can't believe I just said it is April. Oh my gosh, if most of us, I think, are on calendar years, and that Q1 went very fast. Hopefully it was prosperous for y'all. It was for us, and a new one awaits, so we're going to dive right into it. Today, we're going to do another Anatomy of a Deal series, and we're looking at a really great Q1 win that we had with one of our partners. I'll note right from the beginning, the deal was early, meaning the deal happened recently, I should say. And because of that, I'm obviously protecting the customer name. I'm not even going to get into the actual partner. A lot of times I like to bring the partner on the phone with me, and we may bring this individual back as we get everything installed and things of that nature. But for today's conversation, it's really more about the context, and I think you'll appreciate really the story. It's pretty compelling. Here. So as always, our webinars are recorded, and we will send a recorded version out within 24 hours to everyone who has registered. If during the session, rather than if you have a question, rather than answering the question and really breaking this up, we'll take those at the end, as always. Really try to keep everything to no more than 30 minutes. So let's dive right into it, folks. Partner profile. Again, we are having a tremendous amount of success with the traditional telecom agent. Now, we do have a lot of VARs and system integrators and very diverse partner ecosystem that we've been able to tap into. But the traditional agent is really beginning to make the transition, and this is another example of that story. This particular organization has traditionally sold data and voice, been around for over a decade, and really is trying to make the pivot into cloud, and they're doing that successfully. The individual within their firm recognized that a new IT director was hired at their current customer, and that's important because it creates a trigger within the organization and perhaps an opportunity. The customer, and this is also important, was a known entity to the partner. So here you have a new IT director at your current customer. Let's make sure we get aligned with that individual, and it's also a customer who the partner knew and understood their buying patterns and felt comfortable with. Versus the opposite of that would be, obviously a new logo and really not really sure how to navigate the landscape. So that gave us a really good advantage. So how do we identify the opportunity, or should I say, how did our partner in this instance identify the opportunity? As I mentioned earlier, or just a moment ago, really had known them for a while, had a history of selling, but they started to recognize multiple pain points, and we'll dive into those in just a moment. But that's key, right? It's not just about speeds and feeds. It's really what is the stress on the organization. Discovered that the current underlying infrastructure was inadequate, and we'll talk a little bit about really what the context of that is. But right off the bat, we understood, in both the partner and RapidScale understood, that the attributes of this customer were an ideal RapidScale client. And we like to talk a lot about what makes a great RapidScale customer, and I kind of see RapidScale at the intersection of many of the hybrid cloud providers and the large colo, maybe on one end of the spectrum, and then maybe a managed service provider or an MSP. We're at the intersection of those type of organizations, and we really serve customers that are looking for cloud-centric solutions where they can consume kind of cloud technologies and on demand, but really also want the attributes of that MSP. And that type of customer typically has limited IT staff internally, serving hundreds of employees or more. They're mission-critical business apps, and we'll get into that in just a moment, what applications were specific to this engagement. They tend to be brick-and-mortar locations, and what do I mean by that? They're not always technology-centric businesses. This is obviously a law firm. They're not writing code. These guys, they don't make money on technology. Technology supports their business and helps them execute. In this instance, there was an MSP that they had worked with and really were looking to displace. The common theme here is that MSP was the relationship on a personal level was very, very good. The challenge was the MSP had not made the pivot into the cloud, right? And then you get to the compelling event. I mean, at the end of the day, this firm was losing billable hours due to their mission-critical apps either not being available or not functioning at the highest level of performance. So the client overview, these guys have a national practice. There's over 150 end users within the business. As we mentioned, multi-location. I will go ahead and let you know this is out in our West region. They're based in the headquarters is in Denver, Colorado. And I'll give credit to a very successful, very experienced channel manager on the RapidScale team who was instrumental in selling this opportunity, Mr. Andrew Davis. The business critical apps, these are very specific applications to the legal world. World Docs, which is a document management application, and ProLaw, which is very, very common. ProLaw is somewhat of a customized accounting and financial application that is very, very common across the legal space. But if you think about the applications, when you talk to these customers about IT, the apps are what run the business. And in this instance, you had users who are frustrated with the performance of those apps. So it really didn't have anything to do with tell me about your servers, tell me about your infrastructure. All that stuff's important, but at the end of the day, the end users could not access or rely upon those applications. And the IT team, who was, again, limited, were struggling to manage the support needs of those end users, and they're frustrated, right? We found out that the software really needed to be upgraded across the board, not just the apps, but they were running Citrix internally, and they were experiencing multiple challenges with version control. There was a lack of redundancy, not only in the system architecture, but in the building. And I think that sometimes, as we think more and more about cloud, that really gets overlooked because cloud offers inherently the opportunity to have a more redundant experience and a more redundant application. But we often forget about if your servers are hosted within our customer's office environment, what do the physical attributes look like? Do they have power redundancy? And airflow redundancy and internet redundancy, and often the time is no, and that was definitely the case here. This is really the meat of the discussion today, and this is why this experience for us was so compelling. We really went in, and in my opinion, most opportunities that we engage in our sales career, it's a frontal approach. And what I mean by that is it's very direct. We understand, or at least we think we understand, who the decision makers are, and we look to gather requirements and present a solution to those decision makers. And I just pulled a quick definition off the web here. And frontal sales approach, it's a direct approach in which a vendor has a clear competitive advantage in the solution based on price or reputation. In this case, price was not our advantage, reputation was. And the reason that's the case is many folks do associate, and correctly so, RapidScale having a deep Citrix expertise, and in this case, they had really some issues on their internal Citrix platform. So we had credibility coming in, and we had an advantage because of our expertise in that world. The opportunity really was teed up for us. If you think about the previous slide around the profile of the customer, the technology they're leveraging, it really was one that should have been a no-brainer. But we really couldn't get the deal to move as fast as we initially thought it was going to. We were told, and this is important. I talk to our channel folks on our team. I talk to our partners all the time. Sometimes verbal communication, isn't the most important. Think about what is the customer telling us non-verbally. And we were told verbally that they were the decision makers. But at the end of the day, the folks we were with, while they had strong influence, they weren't the ultimate decision maker. And if you think about the definition of a complex sale, it's typically when there's more than one decision maker, and that was definitely the case here. And our alignment was with the IT director, who was a big champion for RapidScale. And I consider that IT director the technical buyer. Think about, help me. I can't handle all of the requests coming in from our end users because they're very frustrated and they can't do their business, and I'm overwhelmed. And then you have the economic buyer. In this case, it was the president, who we were aligned with, but was somewhat of a really difficult gate that we weren't able to get by initially. And the president's thinking, how much is this going to cost me? And is there truly a return on my investment? And what is that going to look like, right? So it was a very head-on approach dealing with these two stakeholders internally. And after months of consultation, the process just seemed to bog down. It became apparent that the right internal alignment wasn't there. And I'll talk more about that and how we pivoted. So we went from, if you think about Sun Tzu and the art of war, we went from a frontal approach to more of a flanking approach. And really, realistically, what happened is I got a plane, I flew out to Denver, I sat down at dinner, and I think AD was in the meeting, and we sat with the IT director and the partner, and it was a phenomenal meal, but we were all kind of looking at each other like, what do we do now? This customer really needs us, but we weren't able to push it through. And it dawned on us that we weren't talking to the end user, to the user buyer. And in this case, the end users are the attorneys. And what is their pain, right? So we already talked about the technical buyer's pain. What is the end user's pain? They're the ones that really do have the pain, but we're not speaking to them. We didn't get an opportunity to really understand how this is impacting their business. And we really began to craft a strategy to get an audience with a key attorney or two within the organization, where we could have more of a detailed conversation around their critical needs, how it's impacting the business, and how we might be able to help. This is a risky shift, and I wouldn't take this strategy lightly. But if you have a very good relationship with your customer, and if it's positioned correctly, it can be done. And what happened was the IT director set up a meeting with the principal attorney within the business, along with our partner. RapidScale, in this case, did not attend that session. It was really more of an educational session around the status of trying to fix the IT challenges within the organization, and they really set a roadmap and an agreement plan to have some further internal consultation and pull that president back into the discussion. And lo and behold, we kind of got unstuck. And it was really because the folks with the power, the attorneys, who also were struggling because they couldn't bill their customers when the applications were down, it was really impacting their business and really impacting productivity. The deal started to open up. So I got to be honest with you, we didn't have any other, while it was risky, we didn't have much more opportunities to actually push it forward. We didn't have, and maybe that's not the right way to articulate it, I'll say this, we didn't know what our other options were. We thought that was our best option, and lo and behold, it worked. And I was somewhat skeptical, but you know what? Our partner was fantastic, and we had a great champion within the organization, within the IT director. So the deal moved forward, and what we found is our solution, Cloud Desktop, Cloud Office, which is, basically in this case was Office 365, Infrastructure as a Service, which is our cloud server platform, and full migration of all their email. That solution met, number one, the founder of the business, his vision, and we determined, and we determined this early, that the founder of the company really wanted to not only have his attorneys be productive, but wanted to create an environment where the attorneys were enabled, where they can recruit talented attorneys that could come in, leverage technologies that they could use securely and access those applications reliably anywhere they could get a stable internet connection, right? Doesn't have to be within their four walls, could be in HQ, their satellite offices, at home, etc. They wanted a customized solution that addressed the current pain. And rather than continue to throw, short-term fixes and Band-Aids, our solution did that. And the users were enabled to work with technology from anywhere, anytime, and productivity was no longer sacrificed for the money that they were basically expending for what was an inadequate solution. So the opportunity to serve this customer was just a phenomenal experience. a really challenging sales engagement and a learning experience, but more importantly, we were able to solve their business need. And when you can look someone in the eye and confidently tell them, your business drivers and challenges are going to be met with an adequate solution, and they agree with you, that's a phenomenal. That's really what I call the essence of employee engagement and really loving what you do. The economic impact, right? So 3-year term, just shy of $20,000 a month, about $18K and change. We went against, I'll hold their name back, but, think about one of the largest managed hosting companies out there globally. And we were the right fit in this instance. And we're not the right fit in every instance, but we know we are. And we were able to demonstrate that. I also know we were the most expensive solution. And because we were able to demonstrate in a co-selling environment with our partner that we met their requirements most adequately, this was not a scenario where we were winning on price. So, to kind of sum this up, how can you find this next opportunity? And if you take anything away from this, our partners have all types of customers, just like we have diverse partners and diverse customers, so do you. And rather than coming out and saying, hey, I need to be just a cloud expert and I need to understand the difference, the real intricacies between DaaS and infrastructure as a service and DR as a service, sure, service level, I think you need to understand some of that. But you really need to go, I think I have a law firm that might look like this one. And can I enter into a business discussion? Is there a trigger? In this case, the new IT director. Did something change that presents potentially an opportunity? Think about the apps. The apps typically are tied to what? They're tied to money. They're tied to how a company is actually conducting business and conducting transactions. Consider the end user impact. A lot of times we're just talking to the IT, the network administrator, the IT director. At the end of the day, who are they serving? Who are their customers? And what do they actually do, right? What does that company do and who are they serving? And if those end user customers, the internal customer, cannot serve the external customer, what is that impact? And that's highly important. And lastly here, you don't always need to just talk technology. If you can get into a business discussion and then pull us in and team with us and co-sell, these opportunities, they go really well. Sometimes they're quite large. They can get bigger than this, and they're quite fulfilling. So that's the end of the session for Anatomy of a Deal. I'm going to pause. I got a few other things I want to say before we wrap up, but it's specific to this deal, the opportunity, how we found it. I'll kind of pause, and Summer, if you can hear me, let's see if any questions came through chat.
Yeah, we have a couple right now. So to start, can you talk about how long the sales cycle was?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I mentioned earlier, we got bogged down and kind of, and with it being bogged down, let me quantify that. Our typical sales cycle, is somewhere between, call it 90 and maybe 120 days from the opportunity being first identified, put into the top of the funnel, and closing. This one was a little unique. I mean, we worked on it for over a year. I think AD and I took it out of the forecast a couple times, and then brought it back in, right? And it was a little bit more out of unusual. So I would caution you in the partner community, they're not all like this. Sometimes the bigger they are, the harder they fall, if you will. But this one was definitely a little unusual.
Awesome.
User buyer faster. I think it would have happened faster.
Awesome. So you mentioned that the MSP was kind of failing this client. Can you elaborate a bit more on how that was occurring?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sensitive to that, right? Because in this case, the MSP was not a partner of RapidScale. Many times MSPs are partners, and MSPs can serve very important functions that complement a lot of things that we do in many cases. I think it just really determines, it's based on the characteristics and maybe the maturity of that MSP. But this was kind of the classic case where the MSP was regional. They weren't very big. They had a limited number of customers. And what was happening is hey, buy it. They were looking at this law firm saying, buy this server. You need to switch. we'll handle mail for you. They were kind of on a retainer, where you're paying, X amount of money and you can call us for a block of billable hours. So here they are, patching, and I don't mean patching in the sense of patching an application or software, but just patching the holes. We've got this, we think we can fix this, and now you need to do this. And it was just more money here and more money there without actually fixing the underlying problem. So the MSP wasn't able to really scale. They had no cloud strategy. There was no way to put them into a redundant platform that provided reliability, scalability, and the opportunity to consume IT as the business demanded, either up or down. So that's very common with an MSP, especially with a regional one. And again, it was a healthy relationship that lasted several years. But as these organizations in the mid-market look to just transform and meet the disruption that they're faced with, a lot of these MSPs just don't have the resources to do that adequately. Good question.
And we actually have a bunch more coming in. So first, someone asked, how and when do you address cloud security issues?
Yeah, I think early, right? And from experience, you kind of think about the verticals, and obviously a law firm is they're going to definitely have some security. They're going to be very security conscious. So security comes down to I think a multifaceted conversation. And, you start talking about there's a physical piece of security, who has access to the physical environment. In this case, hey, these servers are sitting in a building with no controls over, or limited controls in Class A office space, so who can actually access those servers, right? So that's number one. Number two, where's that data going to be located? And we're leaving an environment where the cloud was seen as unsafe to an environment where companies like this are moving to the cloud so they can meet security. Just for example, our standard at RapidScale is the data is encrypted at rest, meaning once I put it on our storage devices, it's encrypted. It's also encrypted in flight. And then you can take security to the nth degree, but obviously from a simplicity standpoint, are we looking at best practices from a firewalling standpoint? Is there antivirus solutions in place? Is there multi-factor authentication in place? And then, guys, think about desktop as a service. I think the common misnomer is that desktop is about, hey, I just need these people to be able to access these apps anywhere that they can get to an internet connection. And while that is a great value proposition and one that was appropriate and very much present in this sales opportunity, desktop is about identity management. It's about who has access to those applications. Can they move data off a PC, off of a server? And with a Citrix and desktop environment, the administrators can control who has access to certain applications and data, all the way down to who can actually stick a USB into a thumb drive into a USB and download a file. You can limit that. So security is a great question. Security is top of mind, and it continues to be one of the big drivers for these opportunities.
Awesome. I'm just going to keep going because we have time. What other critical business apps was the client concerned about outside of WorldDocs and ProLaw?
They were concerned about mail, and I think folks a lot of times think about, well, email is not a mission critical app. Well, let me ask everybody a question. I know you can't answer because we're on this webinar, but rhetorically, if we didn't have mail for a day, we would probably consider it pretty critical. And the Exchange servers were sitting internal. They were on old, inadequate hardware, lacking version control, and just putting that mail within Office 365 gives them inherent redundancy. There's additional things that you can do because I think we all know that Office 365 is not bulletproof. You can look at other technologies like Mimecast, for example. But yeah, the one that comes to mind immediately was Office 365. There were other file servers and different things around data that they had that they were very concerned about, but those were the two main apps that were in the business.
Great. What other industries is RapidScale successfully serving?
Excellent question. And I talk about like it sounds like it's a very broad kind of description, but I always use this term brick and mortar because I think about, hey, I'm the accounting firm, I'm the healthcare practice, maybe I'm a dermatologist in the healthcare industry with 8 to 10 locations, or I'm running a general, just a general healthcare practice. So healthcare is huge across kind of all disciplines. We're not necessarily walking into a large hospital run by the county and saying, hey, let us take this over. We're coming into a lot more private practices. Maybe some community hospitals would be adequate. Then the financial industry, I mentioned accounting, hedge funds. Finance is very strong. I think healthcare and finance drive it because of compliancy. And in the mid-market especially, what's happening is these organizations lack the internal resources to deal with a lot of the compliancy, not only from just understanding what they need to do from a technology and operations perspective, but it's hard for them to acquire the talent internally because it's hard to compete. The larger companies are taking all those folks and just getting the talent that can help them meet those needs. So, healthcare, finance, and then outside of that, plenty of manufacturing, retail. And then, I kind of think of law firm almost in the accounting sector as like professional services.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to keep all these questions organized. We have so many. What is the best way to partner up with RapidScale to attack the law firms in our market?
Phenomenal question. So I'm about to show a slide here in a moment with some of our coverage. Our team just continues to grow. And really, the best way is to start by coming up with a strategy by working with your assigned channel manager or your partner experience manager. And what we can do is you take, if anything, that's such a great question. It gets me excited because that's exactly how you want you to think. Hey, I've got this law firm. I bet they have the similar challenges. And then we can help you with maybe writing a script that can either be delivered verbally, or we could do, a soft email campaign with our marketing team positioned with you to maybe see if we can gauge some interest. But yeah, that's a phenomenal question. And the first is, rather than blasting thousands of law firms, I think it's much more of a rifle over shotgun approach where we get targeted and we say, okay, let's identify 2 to 3, get your partner experience manager, let's get our script, let's go ask these questions and see if there's potentially an opportunity.
Great. And I'll just ask one more because it does pertain to this case study specifically. And then the other ones, you guys, I have written down, and so we will send out some answers with our follow-up email. So what was the partner's biggest complaint outside of billing software unavailability? I assume that this person means the client's biggest complaint.
I think the client's biggest complaint, in summary, restate that, is outside of reliability and scalability. Was that the question?
Outside of billing software unavailability is what the question says.
Got it. Yeah, so I think the end users were very frustrated with, end users in this case being the attorneys, without a stable platform as we kind of have already kind of been through. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll elaborate a little bit further. The owner of this company, who actually is he is the CEO. We didn't get an opportunity to get an audience with him, but what we really determined was he was forward thinking. He was sitting there thinking, I've got. I don't know how many law firms there are just in the Denver market, for example, but there's obviously several. These guys are very competitive. And he's running a national firm, but he's only got, I think it's just over 150 internal employees. So I consider him a mid-market player. And he's thinking, you know what, as I grow and I grow my practice, what are my competitive advantages to acquire talent? And if I've got an unstable technology platform that looks somewhat antiquated, and I'm going out there trying to acquire, or acquire is the wrong word, maybe attract and onboard the right legal talent. Many of these folks might be younger individuals entering the workforce that are very much used to a very different technology experience. I mean, most of the younger generation grew up with an iPhone in their hands, and if they're coming into an organization where you know what, technology is unstable. We're running old servers in our office, in our environment. It's going to be very difficult to hand an employee a very old, antiquated laptop and say, here you go, knock yourself out. You got to deal with it. And I think the CEO is very mindful of that and was looking to have a wholesale re-engineering of the way that they were conducting conducting IT and the way IT was supporting the business. So I think that was a big factor.
Great. And if you just want to cover those final few things in the deck, Bob, then you can wrap it up.
No problem. Thanks, Summer. We'll get to all the rest of your questions. That was awesome. One thing I was going to mention is, hey, we are running a great partner spiff. Deals that are registered as of March 1, basically, through the end of the year on a one-time MRR. So work with your channel managers, understand how you can qualify for this. We're trying to obviously grow the top of the funnel and want to reward you for helping us close these deals out. It says right here, that, hey, we're now a Cox business. I think RapidScale traditionally hasn't run a ton of spiffs, and Cox is tremendously committed to our go-to-market. They're committed to the partner community and how we drive sales. And, if anything, we wanted to make sure that that's understood, and they're behind us. They want you guys to team with us and help us win together. So I think that's an important message. As I indicated, the team's growing. I got a new map here. We'll put this on the website in the partner portal. But you can see kind of our channel leadership team. There obviously is our C-level executives, well beyond myself, but between Mark, Andrew Lauder, and Tim Peterson helping us nationally with a lot of the strategic direction. We've got today 9 channel managers. Some of these folks are brand new to the business. And you can see Christian Himmler. I think he just started about 2 weeks ago. So very excited to have Christian, Byron Bryce out in the Southeast. And we're going from about 9 by the end of the year, folks. We'll have 14 or 15 channel folks on staff. And why that's so important is to be able to really build intimate relationships with our partners, really take sessions like this, build on them, give you that resource for enablement, and also from a salesmanship standpoint down at the deal level, we need to grow that team and be able just to cover more yardage, and that's the idea. So, Summer, that's it. I wish everybody a great April, and let's have some fun. Let's make some money, and we'll see you next week at Channel Partners, hopefully. And that's it. Have a great day.